Again, my name is Carl Sachs, and I'm one of the Assistant Directors of Recruitment and Admissions here at Schulich. Again, good morning, good afternoon, good late night to many of you who have joined us from overseas. So wonderful to see so many of you here today with us. A quick few notes off the top. Welcome to the alumni panel, which will be starting momentarily. The session is going to be recorded, and the recording will be shared with all of you at the conclusion of the event. So as we are in a webinar format for the session today, your mic will remain muted, but I'd like to invite you to ask any questions you might have for our alumni panelists via the Q&A icon that is located at the bottom of your screen. And my colleague Amir Khan, Industry Advisor at our Career Development Center, will be assisting us with those questions. So we have about 25 to 30 minutes here today, and certainly I don't want to take up too much of that time, so I'm very happy to introduce our moderator and our panelists now. So first, we have Rob Hines, Executive Director of the Career Development Center, as our moderator. And then we have our panelists. First, Azra Samji, Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Action Lead, Global Guest Education Centers at Lululemon.
Hi, everyone.
We have Evan Dario, Senior Project Manager, TV Product Marketing at TELUS.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
We have Sebastian Londono Mora, Treasury Associate at TD.
Good morning, everyone.
And we have Priya Kaur, Senior Business Consultant, Project Diversity and Strategy at CIBC.
Hello, everyone.
Great, and now I'll pass it over to Rob.
I'm going to chime in here quickly. Rob's internet has gone down. Unfortunately, These things happen in virtual events, always at the perfect time. So Amir, if you wouldn't mind stepping up to the plate for Rob momentarily.
I feel that Rob this is on purpose to me. He always likes to put me on guard. So so let's jump into the panel. Thank you, Carl, and thank you, Hollis. So our first question to our panelists is introduce yourself. Talk about talk a little about your work experience. Why the MBA program, why Schulich, and talk about a little bit about yourself. And why did you choose the program? So I'll start off with Evan. So have a little introduction about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Evan Dorio. I'm a senior product manager currently working on our TV product marketing team at TELUS. I'm an MBA 2020, so I graduated, I finished in April of 2020, so an interesting time to conclude an MBA for sure. In terms of my work experience right now, so I'm currently working on our television product marketing team. So overseeing our television development, specifically based out west for Canada, so mostly in Vancouver as well as in BC and Alberta. And as part of my role, I oversee our partnerships with larger OTT companies. So our Netflix deals, working with companies like Bell on our Crave distribution, and really just helping build out TELUS's next generation of TV strategy.
Excellent. Thanks, Evan. May I ask Azra a little introduction about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously my name is Azra. I graduated with my MBA just this past April in 2021. I currently work for Lululemon, which, if you don't know, is a global retail company focusing specifically on athletic wear. And so what I do at Lululemon is I support our global guest education centers. So that means that I provide assistance from an idea, so inclusion, diversity, equity, and action side, to our guest education center side of the business. And that expands globally. So we have 6 across the world that I look after. Before this, I was working in nonprofits and then in government public policy, where I did some work on Alberta's anti-racism strategy, and then decided that I really loved strategy and policy, which sounds kind of nerdy, but I did. And so then decided that I wanted to look into an MBA. And so ended up moving out from Alberta to Toronto for Schulich. And I mean, great experience. I got both. I got in person and virtual. I was like part of that class that did both. And while I was at Schulich, a fantastic journey. So it was really great.
Excellent. So you got best of both worlds. That's awesome. So I'll just throw it to Sebastian, a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Sebastian. I'm from Colombia. So I came to Canada in the fall of 2018 to start my MBA. I graduated the same as Evan in 2020 last year. So I agree it's an interesting time to kind of have an MBA. I can expand on that later on the webinar, but what I'm currently doing is working for Toronto Dominion Bank. I'm part of the Treasury Assets Balance Sheet Management program. It's a rotational program, so you rotate throughout 2 years in 4 rotations. So I have done 3 rotations now, and I have been working for this company for 1 year now. An interesting thing about it is like I joined this company virtually, and I am still working virtually, which is pretty challenging. So I think that's why now probably having an MBA is more important, because you can expand on those skills that you need to develop to kind of navigate that better. That's one part of the reason that I decided to do an MBA. I wanted to expand those skills because most of my experience was on technical skills around financial industry. So I wanted to learn more about that. And why Schulich? Because I think it has a great approach in terms of how you can develop those skills. In the second year, you can basically tailor-made your year, all the courses you want to take, and basically you can align those courses based on what's your project plan for your professional development.
Thanks, Sebastian. And finally, Priya.
Hello, everyone. It's really nice to meet you all virtually. My name is Priyadeep Kaur. I also go by Priya. I'm from India. I completed my Schulich MBA in 2019. And prior to my Schulich MBA, I worked as a social entrepreneur. And for my work, I was shortlisted for Forbes 30 under 30 in the year 2015. I came to Schulich for 2 core reasons: to get an excellent education to further develop my business skills. And second reason, which is more important, was to build an international network for myself. As an entrepreneur, I wanted to tap into that. And right after my MBA, I started to gain more experience in consulting. So I worked as a management consultant for public and private sector. And currently, I am working as senior business consultant at CIBC. What I do for a living is I lead key strategic initiatives within the deposits portfolio as part of their project delivery and business strategy team. I also believe in giving back. So I work pro bono as director of impact and evaluation at a social impact consulting firm in Toronto. I'm here to share a lot with you and my experiences at Schulich, a few of the choices that I took during my time at Schulich. And please know that everybody's MBA journey is different. So I hope today's session provides you with some great examples to reflect on. Thank you.
Excellent, Priya. Thank you very much. Before we continue the panel, I know that our true moderator is back online. So let me throw it back to our director, Rob Hines, to do a little introduction to himself and continue with the panel. So Rob, back to you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Apologies for that. I've been Zooming for 20 months, and that's the first time I've had a massive internet failure in the middle of it. So welcome. I just say 2 things. I think our alumni speak for themselves, highly successful, articulate champions of the school. I just give you 2 high-level comments. First of all, here in Canada, there's been no slowdown in MBA recruiting. Corporate Canada and global corporations who operate here have continued to interview, hire, and onboard online. And you will be coming into the job market at a very positive time. There's been a war for talent going on for 20 years that you may not have read about, but as the baby boomers retire 15% a year, we're not producing MBAs fast enough to replace them in leadership roles. And I'm sure you've all seen the recent Wall Street Journal article on the Great Resignation, which occurred, 4 million people resigning in the US. So there's about 1.7 jobs for every graduate. So you're coming in at a wonderful time. So I could talk about the CDC for quite a while here, but I think I'd like to turn it over to you for questions. And if you could direct them to the alum you'd like to answer, that would be ideal. Thank you.
So actually, I'll just jump right in the chat room. We actually do have a question in the chat. And This is directed towards Evan. Evan, could you please share your journey in the ranks of TELUS? What was your timeline, and what were some of the tricks and tricks and tips you could share for future MBAs? Try and break into the technology, but maybe for any other industries.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So yeah, always great to see other TELUS employees. Always nice. I'm still fairly new to TELUS, so I've joined just towards the end of my MBA. So I've been there just under 2 years. So in terms of any tips and tricks, I'd say just be very candid with people, be honest. A friendly face goes a very long way, even if it's a virtual face. And I think really just being very proud of the work that you're putting out. So no matter what you're working on, making sure that whatever you're submitting or working on, doing something that you're really proud of at the end of the day and making sure that that quality is there that you stand behind, that's really important. So I guess those are my 2 tips and tricks, just hard work and a nice happy face when you go with it.
Great advice. I love that hard work. Here's another question from the chat, from the Q&A, and I'll direct it to any of you guys, but maybe I'll start off with Sebastian. How has the MBA helped advance your career? So just how has the MBA actually helped you move up in your career?
Well, I will say for me, it's been a great experience in terms of getting a good transition into the job market here in Canada. I think Schulich has provided me 2 main things to kind of make that transition better and smoother, is like technical skills around financial capitals and financial industry, because my whole experience back in Colombia is a completely different environment. But I would like to highlight all the different like soft skills or managerial skills that I was able to get in the MBA, and that I think that I am applying them right now, even more because of the current situation we are because of the pandemic. The pandemic disrupted a lot of things, and I think the MBA, because I took some courses from organization studies, helped me to kind of have the tools, the appropriate tools to navigate that new environment in business world right now. And I must say that what I have found, at least in the industry I am right now, like technical knowledge is important, but it's also very important, and even sometimes more important, to have those right skills in terms of how you manage your teams, how you interact with your leaders, how you interact with your colleagues, how you set up a team, a diverse team, to work in a challenging task with people in different locations, different backgrounds, and now you need to do that virtually. So sometimes you need to develop that, and I think the MBA program gave me those tools, and that has helped me to kind of succeed in my current role, and also to kind of have better opportunities in terms of my future here in the Toronto Meeting Bank.
Thanks, Sebastian. We have another question in the chat room, and I'll throw it to anyone who actually experiences, or even I'll put a little bit of twist on it. For anyone who actually was working while they're doing their MBA, what is the best approach to balance the two? So it may be not even working, but having extracurriculars, outside activities. So what is the best way or the best approach to balance all the things that you have to do at Schulich and outside of Schulich? Maybe I'll start off with Priyadeep, and then anyone can add in their thoughts on the question.
Yeah, sure, Amir. That's a really good question. And I know like there will be a few students who would do MBA part-time. For me, I was a full-time student, but I'm still working as a social entrepreneur. My organization, Hope&You, was still running in India while I was enrolling in classes and giving my exams. So I used my weekends to focus more on working as a social entrepreneur, giving back to my organization. And what I did was, and this is something that I would request whoever is doing a part-time MBA to do, whatever you learn in your classrooms, try to have like a key takeaway from that course and try using that when you're working in your professional environment. And I did that a few times, especially with change management program course that I took. Whatever I learned, I used it and I shared it with my team back in India, and they were able to implement it within our organization. So have that very clear, like what you want to learn from your MBA. And then I used my weekends to work and balance everything.
Excellent. And did anyone add anything on, or did anyone do their MBA part-time, and if they can share some of that experience?
Yeah, I can top up. So I was a part-time MBA student, so happy to share a bit about my experience. Definitely what Priya says is very true, especially about the weekends. Weekends were very essential for me to complete a lot of my work. But I think the biggest thing that really helped me was just having a schedule and just sticking to it. So I knew that I was going to be at my job between the hours of 9 and 5, and I knew I was going to have my classes from 7 to 10 as an example during the weekdays. Having that schedule and being able to, plan things in advance, look at what my weekends were going to look like, look if I had any free evenings and plan accordingly in advance was really, really critical. And then lastly, just having a really good support system is always really important, especially when you're doing something part-time. So having really good family and friends that are there to help you out when you're going through 3 papers and you have 2 exams coming up are always important, but are especially important when you're doing the part-time program.
Great. I'm not. I'm thinking. I'm not seeing a lot of questions. I do see a couple of hands raised in the panelists. If you can, instead of raising your question, if you can put your question in the Q&A, that would be great. But let me ask a question to the panelists and talking more about preparing. How do you how has the MBA, and you could think about if it was extracurriculars, the course itself, how did it prepare you to be successful in your current role? And I'll throw it back to Azra to start off.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was busy while I was at Schulich. I was working part-time. I was president of the Graduate Business Council. I was doing all sorts of things while I was at Schulich. And I think a couple things that I really took away from my experience as I moved into my new role was the ability to multitask and the ability to prioritize my time, I think was so valuable. And understanding, who needed my support the most. But especially from the Graduate Business Council, part of what I took away there was leveraging the strengths of my team and understanding that I didn't have to do everything. I was one of those humans that came into the program very much like a one-man island kind of situation. And what I learned at Schulich and what I took into my new role was I didn't have to do anything. And part of being a good leader and being a good manager was actually finding ways to grow the skills of my team and leveraging the skills of my team. And so I think that was really impactful for me at Schulich. And the reason it was so impactful for me at Schulich in particular was because our class was so diverse. It was filled with so many students from so many different backgrounds. And so the ability to be able to look at a human and be like, yep, you come from this background, you have the ability to add value to this conversation. Show us what you can bring to this conversation. How can we leverage your skills and how can we build upon that instead of trying to be an expert in everything? I think for me was a really impactful part of my MBA journey and the biggest learning I took as I moved into my work.
Excellent. Did anyone want to add anything to Azra's comments? Oh, excellent. I think, Azra, you covered it all. So let me throw out another question on from the chat room. And it's more, but maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the experience. And I know half of you guys have done full in class, and then we did the online. So maybe the question asks, do we, does Schulich have an MBA online? We don't, but maybe we could talk about the experience about, online and, online and then in class. So maybe talk a little bit about that experience. Did anyone want to kick it off? I know, Azra, you went through 3/4 of it, and I know for you had a little bit of it. So if you guys want to talk about a little bit, and also, Sebastian, I think you're a recent graduate, so anyone can talk about that. So Azra, maybe you can kick it off again.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did a good chunk of my MBA online. I did one semester in person, about half of second semester, and then one day we went home on a Friday, and I'd like to joke we never came back. So the rest of my MBA was online starting March, and it was oddly really, I found it really fun. One, didn't realize how much time I was losing commuting. So for me, this was fantastic. I gained 2 hours back in my day. It was 2 hours I could do for other things, but comparing the in-person and the virtual, what really stood out to me is the commitment of my professors. We went home on a Friday, a random Friday that no one was expecting. And by the next week, like we were up and running, and like I had professors teaching courses, learning how to use breakout rooms, finding new ways to be innovative and like creative in the classroom. And what like that for me really showed how committed my professors were to my learning experience. And so my experience online, like, yeah, I really missed being in person. I missed like talking to people in person. I missed like knowing how tall people were in person and all that good stuff. But I really enjoyed having the ability. I found like I could participate in different ways. I didn't have to always like put my hand up and talk. I could type in the chat. I got to know different people because it was just easier, and people who wouldn't normally stay on the evenings might pop into something because they were able to. So for me, the online experience was really great, especially because I ended up working in a fully remote job. So I will probably never go back to the office full time. And so it worked out really well for me. I learned how to use Zoom really, really well, which has definitely been an asset as I moved forward.
Excellent. Anyone else want to share their experience with the virtual world?
Amir, let me ask a question. I think that,
Please.
you know, one of the things when I speak to alumni around the world, they talk about is it's a tough course. You're all busy, but the social aspect of it's very important. A lot of the events we run are done in partnerships with student clubs. And I wonder if one or two of our panelists could talk about experiences they've had with these clubs. Very effective networking, I've found.
Sure, I can share some examples. And definitely like, and I do want to like give a shout out to Evan, who said that the program is challenging and you need like really good family and friends to be with. I was new to Canada when I came here. So for me, my family and friends were my classmates and everybody who was with me in the same boat, and living together and, you know, going through the same journey was something very important for us, and it bonded us together. So definitely, Rob, when you talk about going to different places and talking about Schulich alumni being tight and connected, that is very, very true. A few of the events that I was a part of, so I was a part of Graduate Student Council back in Hyderabad. So we did a lot of social events. We had like great guest speakers. There is a very open-mindedness at Schulich if you want to start something. So I also started Net Impact Club for the Hyderabad campus, and the professors were very supportive. We were doing this for the first time, and Graduate Student Council in Toronto campus does an amazing job in connecting you with social events, and CDC does a great job in connecting people with professional dreams and connecting them with the right alumni. So one advice, just use and tap into all the resources available, and enjoy the process.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess we're getting close to the end of time. And just remind our audience that these are all Schulich graduates. So ask them one last tough question. Don't be shy. What are we seeing come up, Amir?
We actually have a really good question, and I'll kind of elaborated on it. So basically, they're talking more about the internship experience or the co-op experience. How did it go for any of you if you did have an internship, and how did it help you with your full-time job? Or you know, landing your full-time job. So if you did land an internship, how did it go, and how did that help you land your full-time job?
I can start with that one.
Awesome. Thank you, Sebastian.
Yeah, no, I think I did an internship in Ontario Teachers Pension Plan in a risk area. So it was a great experience. I at that time I had great support from the Career Center in terms of preparing myself for that initial experience, because I was new to Canada. I was new to the like work environment in Canada. So Career Center helped me to kind of prepare that, because of course the approaches sometimes are different from country to country, or there are different environments. So you need to know like how to approach that. And also that first experience helped me to kind of course, learn more about technical things about capital markets and financial industry. But I think more important than that is like that gave me the confidence to kind of go and look for a good position when I was close to finish my MBA. And when I went to TD for the recruitment process, I used that short experience in an internship in Ontario Teachers like as an opportunity I had to kind of show myself and show at that time the OTPP that I was capable of achieving things in this new environment for me, and that all the things that I have done in the MBA at that time were helping me to kind of adapt myself faster to that new environment. So at least that's how it worked for me. And but I will say the confidence I had when I approached the TD process, given that I had that experience at Ontario Teachers, was very important for me.
Thank you.
I think, Rob, we have time for one more question before we end the panel. And this actually, I would say it's a good one. It's a good one. And I'm not going to say the other name of the other institution. How about that? But I'm going to just sum it up, and you can throw it out. Why Schulich? So if you guys want to do your last second pitch on why Schulich and how that it impacted you. So let me start off with Evan.
I was gonna say, yeah, I'm happy to start. So I, before doing my MBA, I did my undergraduate degree in business at a different school. It doesn't matter which one. And when I was looking to do my MBA, I took a lot of time and really tried to do my research on what I thought was the best program for me. And I think that's a really key focus on when you're looking, is thinking about what do you want to get from your MBA. There's a lot of different programs. They have a lot of differences between them. And I think understanding what you're looking to get from the program is really important. So when I was going through that process, I was looking to do some sort of specialization within the field that interested me, which was more focused on media and entertainment. And Schulich was the only program that had that specialization. So when I was going through the process, for me, the MBA and being able to do the MBA with a specialization in arts, media, and entertainment was something that was really important to me. So I know Schulich has a number of different really great specializations across the board. I can't even name all of them. There's too many. But for me, the specialization was a really important part of it. And then also the flexibility of the part-time program as well was also really important. So I think just understanding what you're looking for from the program and finding what really best fits for you is really important. And Schulich has an amazing program. So I'll end there.
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
Yeah, in my experience, I agree with what Evan mentioned. I think it's the same approach I took, but I want to share, like, when I was deciding which school to go, I applied to another big school here in Toronto, and I got accepted in both of them, but I decided to come to Schulich just because how the recruitment team and admissions teams treated my application. And what I mean is, like, again, I was coming from another country to adapt to a new country and having new experiences. The way they approached my application and the way they were next to me, checking in, making sure I had everything I needed, making sure I understood exactly what I needed to do, any concerns I had at that point. I felt it was like a more like a human approach in terms of, hey, you're not just a student that is coming to the school, you're like a person who has a lot of things going on at the same time. You're gonna be here adapting to a new school and also coming to a new country. So I think that process of getting with you, like chatting with you, checking in, solving all your questions was very important for me in terms of deciding coming to Schulich because of the way they approached that recruitment.
Ezra, do you want to add that one from the GBC's perspective?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I think for me, I was coming in, I'm technically an elementary school teacher. Like, I did not have a business background when I was coming into this program. And so I was doing a big career shift. I was moving from education, from politics into hopefully some sort of like strategy business related field. And so I started looking at programs that were really focused on this idea of sustainability, this idea of like impact, this idea of like we could act outside of the more traditional business routes. And honestly, Schulich was my only option. So I kind of threw all my eggs in one basket and was like, this is where I want to go. This is the school that has, at the time, I was really still passionate about the nonprofits. So this was a school that had a specialization in that. It had focuses on sustainability. And then when I showed up, like everything just clicked. And I ended up really feeling passionately about the school, so much so I ended up becoming president of the Graduate Business Council. And what I really found from that was exactly kind of what Sebastian said, that connection to people and the importance of people at the Schulich program. I think you can learn anywhere. But what stood out for me at Schulich was this ability to walk away with this network of people that when I graduated and I was looking for a job, I had so many people in my corner who were helping me, who were supporting me, who were there when I wanted to vent, but also those same humans who were in my classrooms with me were sending me job postings saying, hey, I saw this, I thought of you, what do you think about this? And so that connection and that ability to lean on one another in your program and not see them perhaps as like competitors, but more so as peers and extensions of your network, I think that was just such a valuable aspect for me. And because Schulich's got such a diverse range of people and a range of specializations that you can actually do in the program, it ended up working perfectly for me. I now have friends in a bunch of different areas of business. If I ever have a question about things, or if I'm ever like, oh, I'm really curious about what this industry is doing in this particular area, I know that I can call someone and they can have a conversation with me. And that idea of connection and support and community has never left. And so that's my reason for picking Schulich.
Thanks, Ezra. That's awesome. Guys, I apologize once again on behalf of Rob. He had some technical difficulties, so I do apologize on behalf. But on behalf of Rob and Schulich and the Career Development Center, I would like to thank all our panelists for all their great insights and information. I know we didn't answer all the questions, but students, feel free in our next portion to meet with our alumni. I think some of them may be sticking around. We're going to have some people from the school sticking around in our next portion, which I will throw to Hollis to talk about. Thank you all.
Wonderful. Thank you, Amir. And a big thank you to all of our alumni panelists who joined today and took time out of your weekend. And perhaps the biggest thank you of all to the participants sitting here today who have spent their entire morning with us. So this sort of marks the official conclusion of Experience Schulich. But for those of you who perhaps still have some admissions related questions, we do have a number of representatives from the admissions team who will be back in the Wonder Room. So that networking space that you found yourselves in earlier today. They're sitting in there waiting to chat with you. So for about the next half hour or so, that space will be open and you can absolutely pop back in. And if you have any questions that have yet to be answered, hopefully you can get them addressed there. I do also want to call out that coming up in the next couple of weeks, we do have 2 MBA drop-in information sessions that are happening online. So if you visit the Schulich website and look at our graduate admissions events page, you will be able to see all of the great upcoming sessions that we have. And as I say, the 2 that are happening next are some very casual drop-in sessions where you can just pop in and chat with a member of the admissions team. The final thing that I will comment on is the fact that, of course, we do have 2 intakes annually. There is our September intake and our January intake. We are currently recruiting for both right now. I recognize that January 2022 is coming up probably faster than many of us would like. For those of you currently residing in Canada, it's about to get very cold, but we are still actively recruiting for January. So if you're teetering on the fence and thinking, do I submit an application or don't I? Just know that we are still looking at applications for January 2022 and beyond. So with that being said, I will officially wrap things up here. And again, want to say thank you to everyone for your participation. And please do go ahead and head back into the Wonder Room if you would like to speak with members of the admissions team. And my colleague Carl will also, before we close down in here, he will post in the chat a link to the Hive platform, which is where you will then be able to go back into the Wonder Room. Okay, so Carl's put that link in the chat right there. If you click through it, the Wonder Room is right in the middle of the Hive. So that's where you'll find the admissions team. thank you again and enjoy the weekend.